Hello, this is Matt from Heaney Apps. It has been a while. This video is a hello world for SwiftUI, where we will get up and going and we will make our first mini app using SwiftUI. In case you haven't heard of it, SwiftUI is a whole new way to create the UI in your iOS apps, which has pretty much changed the entire game. In this video, we will make the app that you can see on screen. Whilst we're putting this app together, we will take a look at exactly what SwiftUI is, why you should use it, as well as a look at some of the most important parts and tools it has to offer. However, this is a Hello World video, so this video will be just an introduction to all of these awesome areas. If by the end of this video you want to know more, keep a lookout for a complete introduction to SwiftUI series right here on Matt Heaney Apps, starting very soon, which will cover everything you need to know in enough details to make you an absolute boss when it comes to this new and exciting area of app development. That series will be, of course, completely free to watch here on YouTube, so make sure to hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out. But back to this video, we have an app to make, so let's get to work. So for this, I'll be using Xcode version 12. Also, if you're wondering, I'm using Mac OS Big Sur. And we will start by hitting create a new Xcode project. To set up a brand new SwiftUI project, we will start by going to iOS, app, and hitting next. We will call this SwiftUI Hello World. And the really important things you set here are making sure the interface is set to SwiftUI. For this, we will set the lifecycle to SwiftUI app. There are some very important differences between SwiftUI app and UIKit app delegate. However, they won't impact what we're going to do today. Let's stick to a SwiftUI app. And the language will be set to Swift. Hit next, and save it up somewhere nice and safe. And we now have a brand new SwiftUI project. Now, if you're brand new to making iOS apps, then awesome, welcome to Xcode. But if you have a bit of experience in the past making iOS apps using UIKit, then things will look a little bit different. To start with, the number of files in a starter project is much lower, and you may notice a few very important things have now completely vanished. Storyboards and view controllers are now a thing of the past when it comes to SwiftUI. That is because the way that we make and use views when we're using SwiftUI is different. SwiftUI is a declarative way of coding. We'll explore what that means a whole bunch more in the upcoming Intro to SwiftUI series, but pretty much that means we tell SwiftUI what views we want, how we want them to appear, and SwiftUI can work out the rest. So therefore, no storyboards are needed. That also means no more auto layout. SwiftUI has ways of laying out our views, which we will check out in just a second. These views can be linked up to data through a form of binding, so that the views can update automatically when the data changes to keep everything in sync. Because we no longer need to update our views manually when data is updated, we no longer need that control over the views, and therefore no more view controllers. In fact, all we now have is the content view, which we're currently in, and this SwiftUI Hello World app file. We get this file when we select the SwiftUI app lifecycle when we're setting up our project, and it has effectively replaced the app delegate. Again, as you can see, this is really empty, and it's really bare bones. It pretty much just says, when the app starts up, show me the content view. And for this file, that is literally it. The content view that it will show is the view that was made for us, which takes us back to this file here, which is the content view. So here in the content view, this is where we will do all of our coding in just a second. Here we have a struct and a preview provider. In this struct here, we will create our UI. But what is this preview provider? Well, this is one of the really juicy, cool changes that SwiftUI brings. The preview provider will allow us to live preview our code as we're coding it. We will be able to see instant updates to show what our app looks like with our current code base. This is an incredible tool. Let's see it in action. Important side note, to use live previews and to use this feature, your macOS needs to be Catalina or above. The live preview and the preview provider is what this part of the screen over here is. If you can't see this, you can turn it on by selecting Canvas. In the canvas, we will see these live previews of our code. To see this in action, let's hit resume. Fair warning about this resume button. Every now and then you're going to have to click it again. Live preview can sometimes stop whilst you're coding. It might take a moment. This here is our app, exactly how it would look if you ran this code on a device. This is showing our content view, which, as you can see, is some text that says hello world with a little bit of padding. If we change this, our preview will update in real time. So for example, let's change it to hello, which instantly you can see the preview has changed to just say hello, Matt. Now, as soon as we change that text, this preview here is changing. You can see exactly what is happening in your app in real time without having to run your code over and over again on a device or a simulator. As we go through this tutorial today, you will see how powerful and how useful this is. It is genuinely a complete and utter game changer. It will save you so much time. There's a load of awesome stuff you can do with these previews, all of which will be covered in the upcoming SwiftUI series. I can't get them all in this video today, but trust me, this as a concept in SwiftUI is massive. However, for today, just know that whatever device you have selected here at the top will be the device used in the preview. If you want to change it, we can simply change the device. I will go for the iPhone 11. Okay, so let's put these previews to use. Okay, so let's see what we can do with SwiftUI. Let's get rid of this text and the padding to have a nice empty view body, and let's create our app. So let's start putting our app together. We'll start by making the text appear on the screen. I know we just got rid of some text, but we'll put it back in manually just so we can make the whole thing. It's good practice. So in the body of our content view, the body is what will actually make up the view. We will say, okay, I want some text. So this will be a text object. And what we can do, we can initialize this, so create this object with some text to show. Between brackets and quotation marks, we can enter our text. Ours today will say, hello, SwiftUI. Straight away, nice and simply, we have some text on our screen. As you can see, it will default to the center of the screen. So this is all well and good, but this looks pretty boring. We want to style this text. We want it to look the way that we want it to look. How can we do that in SwiftUI? Well, we do that with what are called modifiers. With modifiers, we can change how this text looks. You know, we can change the font, we can change the font color, we can change the font size, we can make it bold, we can change how it's aligned, we can add padding, we can rotate it, we can make it see-through. Anything you want can be done with a modifier. So how do modifiers work? Well, after the text, we will use a dot. And this here is where we can use our modifier. If we want to change the text color, we will use the foreground color modifier. This will ask us for a color. This is an enum, which pretty much means we can use a dot and use one of the built-in colors. We can set this to any color we want. For example, some blue. Straight away, our text in our preview is updated to be blue. We might want the font to be bigger. So what we can do, we can say dot and we can set the font. To use some standard font with a certain size, we will use a system font with a size of, let's say, 50. Now, here's the really cool thing about modifiers. When it comes to modifiers, we don't actually have to do it through code. We can do it through the preview, just like we would do in the past with a storyboard. So how would that work? Let's click on our text here. What you can either do is use this section over here on the right. You can open it like so. Fourth tab along. And here we can change a few bits. Or what we can do is hold Command on the keyboard and click on the text. And you can select Show a SwiftUI Inspector. Now we can change a few bits here, including the text, the font, the weight, the color, the alignment, and so on. Or we can hit Add Modifier and we can find a massive list of all the modifiers we can use. So for example, I want to use a bold modifier on this label. So let's have a look. There is a bold modifier and our text becomes bold. Now another really cool thing is doing that through the preview has actually added this line to our code. It's the exact same as if you typed that code in. It's up to you if you use the code or use the preview. We can do so many things with modifiers. Now, one of the things that I want to do with this label is make it drop across 2 lines. We can do that by adding a line break into our text with a \n, like so, as you can see, now on 2 lines. But this text is aligned to the left. If we want to align it to the middle, we can use the modifier multi-line text alignment and set this to center. And just like that, we have our text in the exact way that we want it. So that is our text done. Now let's move on to set up an image. To make an image appear in the app, the first thing we have to do is import an image into Xcode. We will do this by moving it into our assets folder, and we will simply drag an image into this folder. So this is the image I am going to use. Like I said earlier on, it is the brand new Heaney Apps logo, designed and created by the incredibly talented Phil Batchelor, which I will drag into our assets folder like so. If you want this image, link is down in the video description. However, I really recommend use whatever image you want to use. Really style this in whatever way you want to. Get creative with it, have some fun. It's the best way to learn. So once you have an image in Xcode, back into the content view. So let's set up our image. To do this, we will simply say, okay, show me an image. And this image will be the name of the image you just imported into Xcode. Mine is logo. Now straight away, you can see something is not right. Xcode will either throw errors or it will show this image in a completely different preview. The problem is our content view is now actually 2 views. It's a text view and an image view. The golden rule for views in SwiftUI is that they have to be one single view. We can't have a text and an image. However, what we can do, we can make them work together. We can use what are called stacks. So around both of these, what we will do, we will use a V stack, like so. We're back to one preview, and technically our text is now sat above the logo. But this image is huge. So huge, in fact, we can't actually see our text anymore. So we will have to add some modifiers to our image to change the size. So how do we change the size of this image? Well, the first thing we have to do is use a resizable modifier. This will tell SwiftUI, okay, we will take this image and resize it. Without this, the image in the app will be whatever size that image actually is. If the image you imported into Xcode is, say, 100 pixels by 100 pixels, it would be 100 by 100 in the app. With resizable, we're saying to SwiftUI, okay, that's our image, but let us control the size. So our image now fits within the app. And straight away, you can see our V stack is working. We have our text, and then below it, we have our image. But our image still doesn't quite look right. It's a bit stretched. We want to use scale to fit. With scale to fit, we're saying to SwiftUI, okay, make sure our image can fit on the screen, but also keep its aspect ratio. With images, we can set an exact size, but scale to fit is what we're after today. So we now have our image. But we want to get a bit fancy with this, and SwiftUI makes it so easy to do some really powerful things with images. For example, if we want this image to be circle rather than the square, we can add a clip shape modifier and we can pass in a circle. Straight away, our image is now circle. If we want to add a border around this, we can use an overlay, and our overlay will again be a circle. But we don't want the entire overlay like this, we just want the border. So what we can do, we can add modifiers to this circle. This will have a stroke, which we will make for now black, with a line width of, let's say, 10. So we've added to our image an overlay with a circle with a certain stroke around the sides here to make it look cooler. So the problem now is that our image is just a little bit being cut off by the sides of the phone. We can fix this with a padding modifier, where we can either add some padding around every side of the image or certain selected sides. By just using .padding, we'll add that padding around our image to make it look just like so. So we now have our text and our image set up, and they're in a stack view, so one view appears above the other. So we're not far off being done. We just have a few things left to polish off. Firstly, we want our image to be above our text. Now remember, these are in a stack view, which takes a whole bunch of views and it will stack them one above the other. So to change our ordering, all we have to do is grab our image, let's copy it, and we will simply pop it above our text, like so. In a VStack, the ordering matters. Whichever view you put first will appear on top of the view. In addition to VStacks, there's also a H stack, which is horizontal, and there is also a Z stack. So we'll stack them up on top of each other. This is how we control our layout in a SwiftUI view. Let's go back to a VStack. By default, the image view and the text view, together they will take as much room as needed and will be in the center of the screen. If we wanted this at the top or at the bottom, we can use another object called a spacer. So after our text, still within the VStack, let's add a spacer object. This will take all of the room that is currently available. And in this case, it will bump everything up to the top of the screen. Same the other way around. If we put the spacer at the top of the VStack, everything will get bumped to the bottom. Or we can add a spacer between the image and the text to spread these out. We will get rid of our spacers for now, but we will use them again in just one moment. What we want to do now is set a background color. Now, just like how we can add modifiers to our image or our text, we can add modifiers to the overall stack. And what we can do is set a background. So we can use the .background modifier. As you can see, for this background, we can use any view. For now, we will just use a color. And let's use any old random color for now by saying color.green. Now note, because this can be any view, we do have to specify color. Now we do have a whole bunch of these built-in colors through the color object, such as red, yellow, purple. But say we want a very specific color. We can create a brand new color using an RGB. So setting the red, the green and the blue, they'll make up the color, which is what we will do here. So we will say color.init, and we will use this initializer where we can pass in red, green and blue. Now for this, we will grab our RGB. The color I want to use is a red of 221, a green of 16 and a blue of 16. It matches this red here. So what we will take that number and we have to divide each by 255. And we do this because the color object needs to work with a decimal for how much red, green and blue. And as you can see, we now have our background, but it doesn't fill the entire screen. And that's because we just learned that these views only take as much room as needed. But this is where our spacers come back in. So what we can do, at the top of the VStack, we will add a spacer. And at the bottom of the VStack, let's add a spacer to extend out this VStack to cover the entire screen. We now have more of a background, but we still have these big gaps at the top and the bottom. That's because they are the safe area. It's pretty much the spaces underneath the notch at the top and this bit at the bottom affected by the curved corners. On some devices, you won't see this, but on some devices, such as the iPhone 11, you can see it very clearly. It's a very simple fix in SwiftUI. All we need is one more modifier for ignore safe area, just like so. Now suddenly, almost out of nowhere, you can see how our UI has built up to be almost exactly what we want. We now just have a few minor tweaks to get this looking exactly as we want. And to me, this is the best part about having this preview. We can see our app in real time. You can watch your UI grow, and you can see over time that you don't quite like something, and it's so easy to play around with. So for example, this color of this label, obviously it's not quite right. So we could play around with it. We could say, for example, quickly set it to green and see how it looks. No, I don't quite like that. Again, with a purple, no, not liking it. So let's jump to the white. And there it is, that's what we're after. Without SwiftUI, you'd make that change, you'd run it on a simulator or device, wait probably about 30 seconds, then try again, try again, try again. We had just played around with our UI in real time in an absolute flash. The only thing left to do is change the color of our border. So let's find our overlay and let's change that to white. And you know what? That outline's a little bit too chunky for me. Let's drop it from a 10 down to an 8. And just like that, we have polished off our UI, make it look exactly how we want. And just like that, you have made your first UI and your first kind of mini app using SwiftUI. And with that, that brings this video to an end. I really hope you've enjoyed working through this little project using SwiftUI with me. I hope you found it really useful, and I hope you can see that power of SwiftUI. And I hope you stick around with the channel to check out that Introduction to SwiftUI series that's coming very, very soon. But for now, thank you for watching. I really hope you liked the video. As always, leave any questions or comments down in the comment section. Make sure to hit that like button, make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.